We're rolling.
Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Nerdbuzzed!
Nerdbuzzed doesn't condone the consumption of alcohol by any persons under the age of 21. Please drink responsibly.
So, welcome to Nerdbuzzed, the podcast where we talk about all the nerdy stuff that we care about and drink a cool brew while we're doing it. We're changing it to brew now because we are branching
not necessarily
out.
frosty today either.
It's not necessarily frosty today. I'm your host, Marcus Ellinger. With me, as always,
Jeremiah Johnson.
And back, because we didn't scare him away, and he's not sick of us.
Dan Macken.
Thank you, Dan, for sticking around. We
Yes.
appreciate it. It's always a little flattering when the guest is willing to hang out longer with us.
Oh, of course.
Right? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's not this, never again.
Well, some of us, we have weird, abuse fetishes, and that's why we stick around, We want to just see what other kind of harm we can get into.
Right? And all we had to do was say, we can keep drinking this mead. And
That's
we were
true.
Like, nope.
I'm a
sold.
really cheap date, it turns out.
Yeah. He's down to do a third episode.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
So this is After Party, and
It is.
I don't care about the rules because that's the point of an after party. We're all off the clock, and we get to just hang out and be nerdy and have fun.
Mm-hmm.
But we are going to keep drinking mead from Aesir.
Aesir.
Or Aesir?
Sear.
Aesir. If I'm getting it wrong, I apologize, Eric.
Aesir.
I did this the
Aesir.
whole episode with Eric. I just kept messing up the name right next to him. Right, he's the same spot you were. But we love you, Eric. Please keep making the awesome mead mastery that you do. It's
Thank
amazing.
you for your patience.
Yes.
Which
and
Just got a thumbs up from him.
awesome.
Yeah.
And, but totally, go check him out in Everett. Totally worth doing. Go to AesirMeadery.com. It's AEIR.
Wait for
No,
yes.
AE. Sorry, it's After Party. AESIR Meadery.com.
Yes.
Check it out. Mead, not meat.
Yes.
People always assume I'm going to the butcher.
Yeah.
I'm going to drink some mead. No.
That'd be weird to
Right?
go to the butcher shop and be like, I would like a bottle of your finest ground up beef
It just got to be in the bottle.
juice.
Yeah.
Beef juice.
That'd be weird.
You
Really
probably
weird.
get that in Italy. That's where all your fermented stuff comes You from. probably could. Like go to the butcher and be like, can I have some fish squeezins, please?
Just any meat squeezies I don't want. Warm or cold. I
Wouldn't
don't
that
want
be
it.
Iceland then? Something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Someplace terrible. I think it's Iceland. Isn't that where they ferment the shark?
Oh, maybe.
Cod, isn't it? Are you talking about lutefisk?
No, lutefisk is dried then reconstituted in lye.
That sounds awful.
It sounds terrible.
If you eat olives the same way they treat olives, well, they don't dry them first, but they're anyway, whatever. But
Except one is a plant and one's a living thing.
yeah, well, okay.
What plants are living things
I guess
Yeah.
so. You're right.
for a period of time.
Well,
And they've
Yeah,
and they've proven that they can that they have a somewhat obviously very basic neural response. So there you go.
Okay. We start our clock, please.
Oh my gosh.
And I do want to give a shout out to Document 93 before
Yes,
we
thank you.
drink too much meat and we forget to do that.
It's all good.
Totally go there. Check them out in Mount Vernon.
Go visit.
I really recommend investing in the Dropbox. It's been my saving grace for comic books.
Should I tell people how they can set up a comic box?
Please do.
Please
that'd be-
do. Yeah, promote. That's kind of why you're here. Promote all you want.
Okay, so we actually do the comic book poll list in two different ways. So you can bring us a list of the current titles you're wanting polled, or trade paperbacks as they come out, whatever your poison is. We have a catalog on hand. People can utilize that. We will actually give people a catalog if they're a subscriber. That doesn't cost them a dime. They can just come in and get one. We also have order forms, which are a much more extensive sort of a ordering form. If you want to peruse the catalog and look through the master order form, you can. There's literally thousands and thousands of books to choose from. That all being said, the two ways that you can set up a hold box is you can do a deposit on the box, which is a $25 refundable deposit. If for some reason you have to close your hold box, then as long as it's in good standing, then we return that $25 to you. If you have to if you leave town or something like that and you can't pick up all your books, or you just abandon it, or sometimes shit happens, then obviously we reshelve the stock and keep the $25 as a restocking fee. The other way to do it, which another nice and convenient way, is we do debit and credit on file. So we don't keep anything actually in the store. It's all held through a third-party server. So everything is secure. And as your books come in, we can charge them to you. So they just sit there behind a paid-for tab, and then there's no stress on you to have to worry about it. So
That was the route I chose to go.
yeah, a lot of people do that. In fact, we have a few people that do mail away also. So we ship them their books. We just wait till we get enough that can fit into a flat rate box, and we just give them a big old pile of comics.
I think that's probably the way I would do it.
That is awesome. Yeah. That's so if you aren't local and in the area, but you still would like to tap into a kick-ass comic book shop, they can still do that. That's super cool.
Yep.
I'm still going to come see you, though. So
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so. I recommend anybody actually visit their local comic book shop at least twice monthly, at least once every 2 weeks, just so you can get an idea of what new is coming out and stay current.
Yeah.
That's probably about the bare minimum. It'd be my recommendation. But once every 2 weeks.
I think so if we talk comics for just a minute.
Yeah, totally.
The things, because we talked about this in the store a little bit, right? Where you and you talked about this on the previous episode, where there's hundreds of comics that are coming out. There's no way you can read all these.
Oh yeah, you'd have to dedicate
they're
a lot
way
of time.
too many, right?
Yeah.
But the Dark Knight, the third part, is what got me started again, and I've kind of gotten into the Batmans because they're doing the whole Watchmen tie-in thing and building up with the Button. And,
they did the little spin-off there.
Yeah, so I've kind of been pursuing Batman again because of that. Really excited about this Batman, the Dark Knight Metal.
Have you read the latest issue yet?
I did read the first one.
Oh man, wait till you read this latest one. Did you get to that last panel with Dream and shows up and stuff?
Yes.
That's a huge spoiler.
Yeah.
I just dropped a huge fucking spoiler there.
That's all right.
I apologize for that. Anyway, but
I think it's already been released
the Watchmen
everywhere,
thing,
all
right?
over the
So
internet.
the Watchmen thing, that's a Vertigo title. That's the out of continuity from the normal DC universe, but they kind of stuck them together a little bit. Same thing with the other Vertigo titles. So like Sandman and some of those things are starting to appear in the normal DC continuity, and that's pretty exciting.
Yeah,
because that's a whole other demographic. Now you're taking that demographic and you're putting them together with the superhero demographic, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
I really like it.
I'm really, really excited about it. I'm chomping at the bit to get them all. I've already got the list down. I'm getting all the little side issues and everything. You're going to get Facebook messages from me. This is what's going to happen.
I look forward to it.
Dan, put this in the box. Put this in the box. But the other ones, the other avenue I've really gone as far as the new comics is Image. I've really been pursuing Image comics.
They have
I'm really
got
fascinated by
real
Image
big
comics.
cross section of really interesting stuff that's coming out.
And to me, it has with Marvel and DC, which are your two major heavy hitters, right?
Yeah.
It's almost like their universes are already established, and they're bringing in artists and both artists and writers. Both artists, but they're bringing them all in to kind of give their interpretations of their already established characters. Whereas Image, it's almost like you can come on board with your character and your world that you're personally creating, and give and here's an outlet for you to make that available to people. Which I like that vibe about it.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. It's a little more independent, I guess.
I am not familiar with exactly how they acquire new content. I've heard some different things on how it works. Ben, who helps me out at the store, would be somebody you would want to ask about that, because I think he's approached them before. I know there's some licensing things involved with how they do their stuff, but I think they'll just about print anything if you bring it to them, and I'm not sure exactly if they do kind of you front the costs or how it all works or what it is, but they're not exactly a vanity press, obviously, but they'll print just about any genre. So clearly they've got their fingers in a lot of pies as far as the breadth of things that they're putting out.
Yeah.
I mean, some of their coolest stuff you got stuff like I Hate Fairyland, which is kind of a young adult book. It's super violent, but it's still kind of a young adult book, and it's fantastic and hilarious. And then you've got stuff that's super crime noir, but still kind of got these weird, mythical vibes to it. One of my favorite books right now is Black Monday Murders, which is just this absolutely beautiful book. It's just such an absolutely beautifully drawn book, and the story in it is so bizarre. It's such a weird kind of crime / metaphysical story. It's just really deep. It's really neat, and it doesn't come out super fast either. So you got to be patient.
I like that though.
Yeah,
I'm also
you
a
gotta
fan
be
of that
really
too.
patient. Yeah, and of course there's stuff too like Walking Dead, which is out on time. Seems like every month, and
Yeah.
it's a great book. It's really fun.
The ones I got way into, which you were kind enough to like go find the first issue of the what is it, the God Country, and you totally hunted that down for me, which was awesome. It was like a 4th printing, like it was far enough, but I could get all the rest that were current. But that was really cool, and that was a short little series. I'm a big fan of when they. That's what I like so much about like the Dark Knight stuff, is that it's like this condensed series, so I'm not committed to getting it for years on end. Right?
Are they doing those into a trade paperback?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, right now they put them out in 2 different formats for Dark Knight. They put them out in the floppies, and there was a couple of variants that they did for every issue, and then they did the hardcovers as well. Mm-hmm. And then they put out a slip cover case with the volume 9 for the final one, and all of those fit together. Yeah, exactly, that thing right there.
That's right here, which I picked up at Docking Bay 93. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's awesome. I like that format. It kind of actually reminded me of Sin City when they did those Sin City books through, which is also a Frank Miller book, through Dark Horse. Is that the spines all lined up and made another piece of art, which was really cool.
And one thing that was appealing about that at least that Dark Knight series in particular was that they did cost more. Like it was $1 more per comic, or $2. It might have been like. Was it $5.99?
I think you technically got 2 comics in it, though, didn't you?
Yeah, you got the little mini comic, which was actually set up super cool because the mini comic, a lot of times you'd read it and kind of be like, what's going on here? But then you'd get the next issue, and it would totally make that mini comic relevant. So it's kind of cool the way it would be like these weird little cliffhangers, but there's 0 ads through the whole comic.
Yeah.
You don't ever have to deal with an ad. It's nice, thick pages, and
Yeah.
it really made me think, I would pay an extra $1 for every comic if this is what it meant, right? Like if that extra $1 would go to the ad, or $2 or whatever it was.
It's interesting because I think that's largely a big portion of why comics have risen in price so much, is because they don't sell the ad space like they used to. And I can't, verify that with any hard data, but I mean they still have the splash pages in there, like they've got bubblegum ads or they've got movie ads and stuff like that, but the back of the book where there used to be all those ads in those old like 70s and 80s and 60s books, and you could
all the little teeny ads that were
you could send away for the the
Mr. Universe workout
exactly
system, or
exactly all that kind of stuff, Red Ryder BB guns and stuff like that. You could send away for all that crap, and they're not in there anymore.
Which is, it's funny that like as an adult I love that because I just want the comic, right? But when I go read something from my old comic book collection, I actually love the ads.
Oh yeah,
right?
it's like watching them. It's
totally.
It's
for me, it's like the watching the old, if you still have a VHS player, but if you watch like an old recorded show from when you were a kid, it has the commercials, and it's still I actually kind of like those
Superman.
parts. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
There's all those Saturday morning toys and whatever in there. That's all great.
That's awesome.
All right. Well,
but to answer your question, yes, there is actually going to be a compilated trade paperback of Dark Knight.
Awesome.
There'll be one coming.
So I need to set up a Dropbox.
You don't need to. If you don't, not for that, you can just we'll order them and we'll have some on the shelf. And if we run out, then we can just do a special order for you.
Awesome.
The nice thing about having a Dropbox though is also you get 10% off. We give 10% off on all the comic books that are either in it or any of the print media that you buy off the shelf.
Yeah.
So if you buy a lot of comics, some people just have like one comic on their pull list and then they just buy everything off the shelf. They just impulse buy.
That's kind of what I do.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I do that to test the water, and then if I like it, it gets added.
Yeah, if they have the deposit, for example, some people aren't comfortable having their credit card or debit card information held, which is fine, and I totally understand it, which is why I did the deposit option. Then they can pay off that $25, pretty quick, actually, just on the 10% discount alone. So it pays for itself.
Nice.
Yeah, it's super cool. It's super handy. And sometimes I just can't get away what day is it that new comics come out? Is it Tuesday?
Comic books actually arrive. We pay for the early delivery, so we actually get them on Tuesday.
Okay.
But street date is Wednesday. And so we can't actually sell any of the new comics on Wednesday. If there's reorders, like older stuff that you're waiting on, obviously you can come down and pick them up a day early if you like. But otherwise, Wednesday is street date for new books.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. It's like a lot of the other nerdy stuff I'm into is that way too. They always have their day it comes out, and sometimes you can see it. They have it there the day before, and they might sell it to you at midnight.
They actually test us. They actually check us. They send secret shoppers.
Really?
Yep. The company actually hires secret shoppers to test us and make sure that we're not selling them a day early.
All right.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Sometimes they do a report, and the report's really nice. Like it'll actually tell you, like it's an actual like I don't know how many what kind of companies you guys have worked for in the past, but they've a lot of companies have those secret shopper programs. People will come in and they'll be like, "Were you greeted at the door? Were you was your what you bought, was it rung up properly? Was your amount tendered, and all that kind of stuff? How would the shop look? Were things easy to find? What is the staff like? And it answers all those questions, and we've had a couple of them come back, and I've never seen anything other than really glowing, really makes you warm and fuzzy inside. Like, man, these people really enjoyed themselves here. That's really kind of nice,
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes, they would have some commentaries that was like, I'm not sure what they're talking about, but there's other times where you're like, oh, they had a really positive experience, and it makes you feel really hopeful for the next time. But it's usually pretty easy to spot those secret shoppers, which is kind of a downside. But they're specific. It's like some 60-year-old woman who's asking for the Flash a day early for her grandson. It's like,
yeah, right.
Yeah, you asked for 3 books.
Somebody in a business suit.
Yeah. It's like, you just happen to ask for 3 books that are out tomorrow. That's interesting. I wonder if you're a secret shopper and you didn't buy anything. It's pretty funny.
I actually went for a ride along on
That's
on
because
one
you
of
wouldn't
those.
sell it to her a day early. That's why she didn't buy anything.
Yeah.
Some of them actually do shop. Some of them actually do spend some money, and they'll actually write in the comments like, "Yeah, I bought this while I was here. It looked really cool," or whatever.
Yeah,
So that's kind of nice.
I was
Well,
actually.
I gotta say though, I walked in. I liked the store. I had some bearded guy looking out of the side of his neck at me when I'm walking around. I'm like, okay, can I help you? Yeah, I'm looking for Serenity.
Was this the?
But you're looking right in the right area. Yeah.
Yeah, you were standing literally right in front of it.
I know. I already picked up 2 of them. I had them in my hand already.
Oh, did you? Okay, yeah. There you go. Looking in the right spot.
Nice. Making your job easy.
Exactly. That's my favorite. That's my favorite kind of customer.
That's what I was looking for, though.
Exactly. Good deal.
So typically for an after party, we just talk about whatever we want because that's the way an after party works.
Cool.
And we get more buzzed. And I have my typical gambit of questions that I have here. I've added a couple new ones.
Cool.
I try to always add new ones and keep it fresh.
So
you gonna fire away.
We
with
got to
the first
ask one though, because we're traditionally a beer group here. We've got the mead. We know you like mead.
Yeah.
So we'll just get. Which one did you like the best?
Oh boy, that's a really tough.
Do we need to try them all again first?
Yeah, probably.
Which one do you want a big glass of?
I would like that last one I tried actually.
Sarsaparilla it is.
I want to try a little bit of the sarsaparilla again.
There you go. That's
That
one
was,
of my favorites. I like that one
was
a
tasty.
lot.
See if I can do this without making a mess.
Do you?
That satisfying sound,
I know.
Isn't it?
Yeah, I like
So
that.
good. So good.
So, what's your favorite beer style?
I'm not a huge beer drinker, but I really enjoy ciders. I really like a lot of different ciders.
I think that kind of fits in with the mead realm.
It
Yeah,
does.
Yeah.
It does fit in the mead realm. I really like cider a lot. I have a really hard time pinning down what kind of beer is my favorite, but it depends on kind of what I'm eating, I guess.
Okay.
Like if I'm having a hamburger, like a good blue cheeseburger or something like that, just Budweiser.
I
know it's a really
American
cheap-
Pale. I knew you were going American Pale with
Yeah,
that.
something like that is just something that's kind of crisp is nice.
Well, it's because you're making up all the richness with your blue cheese burger.
Exactly. Yeah.
And bacon, right? Do you put bacon on the blue cheese?
Of course.
Yeah, right. Sorry, that's a stupid
This is
question.
America, sir.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Sorry, do you put a burger on your bacon?
Sometimes. Yeah, I don't think my cardiologist appreciates it very much. But,
I think he does because it keeps him in business.
that's true. That's true.
Okay,
true,
so
that could
back
be.
to the ciders then. So what's your favorite cider?
Let's see. Apple cider is always really good, of course, but there's a few of the local pubs and whatnot that have been kind of playing with other stuff, and I think I've really found a real enjoyment in blackberry.
Okay.
And cranberry actually has been really good.
So are they ciders that are with cranberry and blackberry added to them, or?
I think they're
Just straight
I
blackberry and
think
cranberry
so.
juice?
I don't know.
Interesting.
I'm not an expert on it, so I don't know very much about it. I could ask like the next time I have some. Usually they're very seasonal. Obviously they're only available for, when they have them. I did try I think it was mulberry.
Okay.
Up in Bellingham a couple nights ago, and I actually didn't like it.
Okay.
Which is one of the few that I've tried that I didn't care for.
I think Boundary Bay actually had their own cider that they were doing that was not very.
I think it was Bayou. Yeah.
Oh, Bayou. Okay.
Bayou by the Bay up there in Bellingham. I tried theirs, and I was kind of like, meh. I could take it or leave it.
Super picky about a cider, more so than most other alcoholic beverages.
And not surprisingly, I found I like this the hopped cider's the best.
Yeah, I bet I would prefer that too.
Yeah.
For me, they're like they're okay to drink, but if I drink much more than just a little bit, they tend to be so sweet that it kind of bugs me.
Yeah, if I'm ever out with my
body
friend,
disagrees with it.
I got a friend. I don't know if she'll watch this or not, but she always tells me I drink wine coolers. Like she'll drink like some dark, like beers, like you can't see through it. It's like wow, that looks like a chalkboard, Like, and it's like here am I with my little pale thing. She's like, hope you enjoy your
lady beer.
She's like,
Your Boone's Farm.
Enjoy your wine cooler. It's like I will.
Somebody has to.
Exactly.
Interesting enough, though, in Ireland, ciders are a major part of the Irish draft beer brew culture. So
interesting. I had no idea, and that warms my Irish roots.
There you go.
Yeah.
That makes me very happy to hear. That's very cool. If I ever make my pilgrimage to the motherland someday, I will definitely have to see if I can do it.
Yeah, you have to look up. I think it's Mangers, whatever it is.
Yeah, definitely. You would think. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, we're in Washington. This is the Apple State.
Yeah.
How can we not have cider? You would think it would be in every single bar, but you'd be surprised. It's like one of my favorite ciders though is just Angry Orchard. Like I love Angry Orchard. Next time, if I ever come back to your guys' show, in fact, I'll bring one of like those mixed boxes or something like that.
Okay.
I love
He just
Angry
got
Orchard.
invited back. Anytime somebody offers to bring booze with them, you get invited back.
I've
right,
actually thought about doing a cider show, but I was get laughed at.
Wait, me?
And,
come on.
No, it's definitely something that's worth your time, I think. But
He would have said, "Oh, were you inviting the ladies?" I'm sure that's what he would have asked me if I did that.
Yeah. Right. But it's Angry Orchard seems to be hard to find once you go further north. It seems like.
Yeah. Have you tried the Square Mile?
I have
the hopped one.
I have not. I don't think.
You should try their one. They got a Square Mile hopped one. I can't remember what their name of it is, but.
Yeah, and most of the ciders I find, outside of Angry Orchard, most of them are just a little more dry than I care for.
See, I like the drier ones.
Yeah.
I think I would prefer a drier one as well. It's the super sweet that starts to get to me. They're good, but once I have one, I start to get overwhelmed by that.
It's dessert, and that's done.
Yeah, like when me and my wife went to Canada, lots of ciders in Canada. I was actually surprised by
lots
that.
of ciders in Oregon.
So it's apparently weird because we have so many apples, but it's not here.
Yeah.
Right?
Export.
Interesting.
Yeah, right. Export, not an import. We're all sick of them. That's why. That must be what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's pretty funny. They don't need as many French
what's
fries.
what's your favorite kind of beer?
My favorite beer, I got to go IPA.
Yeah.
It really is my favorite. But I'm a really good oatmeal stout in there. It's really hard to pass one of those up.
Yeah. There are some of those weird like ones that they do around wintertime and whatnot. There was one that somebody brought to a party that was it was a banana bread beer.
That sounds interesting.
And I drank one of those. I'm like, this is going to get me in trouble. Because if I can drink it and it doesn't have that bitterness to it, like if it's got any kind, like if the bitterness is a lot higher, I'd like it less. If it's a lot smoother and sweeter, boy, I can put it away.
I can already think of what I would do for banana bread beer, and I'm already formulating a recepe.
Do you brew? You brew?
A little bit.
Nice, right on.
Not.
I've had an introduction to it a little bit, but I'm not. I've never done it myself. I'd like to maybe at some point, but I haven't tried it myself.
I hope to get my equipment back here, or get more equipment again, better equipment, and start into it again.
Yeah, there's a couple of stores in Mount Vernon and Burlington now, I think, that are selling.
Yeah, you got Northwest Brewer Supply right there in Mount Vernon.
There's one right down the street from me in Burlington. I live right near it.
Yep.
Which is kind of nice.
Yeah, just on down there by the soccer fields almost.
Next question.
Next question, right? That was a good one though. Beer.
Yeah, dude, we killed like 7 minutes with that.
Right, nice job, nice job. And out of the 7 minutes, we
killed
talked
some
about beer for
time.
like 30 seconds. That was good. So I did want to ask you, because you have the arcade there.
Yes.
And I know that was not like your original passion you brought to the
No,
establishment.
it doesn't belong to me.
But is there a video game? Because at least I am, and Jay I think is right behind me. We're quite the video game nerds. Is there a video game like a system that you play, or?
Let's see.
Ooh.
How would you like me to answer this? Would you like me to break it down by system?
Sure.
Or separate it
whatever.
by like console versus...
Are you like, do you tend to cater more towards that classic arcade audience or crowd?
I don't play very many video games at all, surprisingly. I can tell you that I really like Donkey Kong, the classic Donkey Kong. And the reason I like the classic Donkey Kong is because I can see my front door of the store from where that machine is.
Yeah.
Why you got chosen as the game.
This is a relationship you've grown with each other.
Exactly,
there.
yes.
A relationship of convenience.
Exactly. So, like, when I was playing the Pac-Man Battle Royale game quite a lot of the time, it was when we had it in the front of the store. And we had it sitting out there when it first came in. And so I played that an awful lot and got pretty good at that. I'm terrible at it now. You have to practice. You have to keep those muscles strong, otherwise they get weak. So... Let's see. I haven't played any like newer console games since PS2, really.
Okay.
So
Solid
PS2
system.
was a really good system. I think it was a really good system.
Super good.
We had Xboxes in the store for quite a long time, but after we had a break-in, we no longer have any Xboxes in the store because they were all stolen. So I never really got into any of that. First-person shooters just kind of eluded me. I never really could get into them.
Yeah, me neither.
But PS2 was SSX, the snowboarding game.
So classic.
For some reason, I just really liked that game a lot. And I got pretty darn good at it, too. And I had a roommate at the time, and we would just duel. Just constantly just back and forth, and just push each other, see how far we could go. Previous to
SSX
that
is good for that.
is a very good game. That's the only disc game I've ever bought.
Really?
I've never actually spent any money on any other disc game. Previous to that, I had owned a original Nintendo, and I had owned a TurboGrafx 16, which I got at a garage sale when I was a kid. Those are the only two game systems I've ever owned.
Whoa, you got that as a garage sales kid?
Yeah.
How old are you?
I was born in 1979.
Okay. So you're right with us. All right.
Yeah, that's right where I'm at.
So and that game I only ever had 2 games for it. I was never able to find anywhere else. So I had Bonk's Adventure, and then there was some sort of other weird game called Deep Blue, which might be the hardest game I've ever seen in my life, aside from the Nintendo Predator game, which didn't make any damn sense. And so it was just one of those weird side-scrolling shooter games. So it was like 1942 or something like that, only you were a fish and you were shooting other fish, and it just went on and on and on and on forever with no apparent point, to what you were doing.
Yeah.
You had one goddamn life. One goddamn life. That's all you got.
That's like the heyday of video
was
games, though.
such
Was
a hard
that
game.
mentality?
Yeah,
We're all
exactly.
spoiled now.
Yeah, exactly.
People don't even
Yeah.
they don't understand the struggle.
But I
They
think
don't.
even to this day, I think Super Mario Brothers 3 is probably my favorite video game.
Love it.
Nice.
I love Super Mario Brothers 3.
I was
really
a
great game.
sucker for 2. I don't know what it was.
Interestingly enough, that wasn't a Mario Brothers game to start with.
Wasn't.
No, it was actually a different game that they had replaced all the computer sprites with Mario characters. It was a completely different game. It was released in Japan originally as something different. It was, I don't even remember the name.
I can't remember what it was, but that's why it's so different.
Yeah,
It's the only
that's
one
what
that's
I
like
loved
that.
about it. That it was so different. I mean, I hated it when it first came out because it was different.
Yeah.
Then 3 came out, and I found myself playing 2 more than I did 3.
Yeah, interesting. That's weird. But they just changed the title screen, turned it into a dream or whatever, and replaced the main character.
The classic dream.
Yep.
Right?
Classic
That's
dream.
a classic scapegoat,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah.
How do we tie the season up? Have him wake up from a dream.
Yeah. I'm gonna. The only other games that I've really played with any length of time is I played World of Warcraft for a while, the first version of it, and I played Diablo a little bit,
All right.
and I really enjoyed those. I never got past about level 30 on World of Warcraft before I'd go back to playing other stuff. Minecraft has been a big time sink. I found that I've really just enjoyed that on my computer. And this is going to really date me a little bit, but I'm going to plug it anyway because
It's too late for that.
I'm going to share this. I'm going to share this podcast with my friends online. And there's an old text-based MUD that I play. Did you guys ever play any text-based MUD? I still play one.
I played when it was a
Really?
I still play one. I still play one regularly. Yeah.
It was off of I can't remember who the ISP was, and it was the Mount Vernon based ISP.
Okay.
I think it was Cascade.
I've
Can't
no idea.
remember who it was. Anyway, they hosted one, and it was a pirate and ship based one.
Awesome. That's cool.
It was so you started out as a freighter pilot, all text based, of course, and
Nice.
and there's this supposed grid of a world. I have no idea how they calculated who was where,
Yeah.
but
It's all VNums.
yeah. But the thing about it was it was all real time, and it kept going.
Yeah.
And I didn't put the time into it that everybody else was putting.
I've been playing one since probably early 2000s.
Yeah.
Wow.
I've still been playing. I've still got my original characters on there and stuff. But it's called. I'm going to plug it here. It's called Dark and Shattered Lands,
Okay.
and it's still up and running. People still play it, and it's got a pretty small population these days. But
The diehards are
it's
still
fun. The diehards are still there, and it's a lot of fun. It's www.dsl-mud.org, and it's all family friendly. So people, if they get to cussing on there, they get booted. But it's a lot of fun, and it's got more of a depth and breadth of class and race combinations than any game I've ever seen.
Nice.
Yeah, it's got a lot of options on there.
That's cool.
Nice. Yeah, I loved all the like the one that I played was the ship based one, and you could just keep upgrading, or you could play the brigand and totally, which is why I think I like Rebel Galaxy so much.
Yeah.
Because of that game in my past and that.
Yeah.
And the way you can play it, but it was it was awesome.
Yeah, and I'll go one step nerdier for this because we are on the Nerdbuzzed
That's right.
podcast, and drinking is the heart and soul of the dwarven people in any fantasy game.
Yes,
and
yes.
the character that I play on there is in fact the king of the dwarves,
Nice.
sweet.
Not just a dwarf,
not
but the
just
king.
the king of the dwarves, the
Nice.
high king. And that's what he is. So there you go. You can
Nice,
come
I like it.
come and
Bring
hang
it
out
full
with
circle.
the bearded king of the mountain.
Awesome. I like it. We will all drink to that.
There you go.
I immediately thought of with those favorites was the Wizard movie. Remember that? With,
loved Wizards.
Fred Savage.
I'm not
Yeah,
sure
just
if I've
the
ever
wizard
actually
one.
watched that all the way through.
That is a promotion for Mario Brothers 3.
Yeah.
Oh, is it?
That's,
Wizard, the
it's this
game.
big
Oh yeah, that's
trailer.
right. That's right. And
all
they
it
had
is.
the
power
glove.
glove.
The glove.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. It's this big promotion film
Yeah.
for.
He found the warp whistle.
Yeah. Yeah.
How's he going to beat him?
That's
He's
right.
behind.
As
He's
soon as
farther
you were
away.
talking about that, I kept thinking, this is the Wizard. This is totally that is.
Yeah, that was
with
when they
Fred
had
Savage.
that. Wasn't there that TV show, the Nintendo Power TV show, and stuff like that was all kind of at the same side.
And it wasn't. It was the animated one. Is that right?
Well, they had that, but they actually had a TV show where they would give you tips and tricks on like how to get through levels. And stuff
Oh,
like that.
nice. I think this must have been on cable. I didn't have that.
Yeah,
I
and
remember
then
the
there was
cartoon one that came out with like the block. It was like our first block. It wasn't quite Disney Afternoon. But
Yeah,
it was
they
kinda
had
like
that.
right?
They had that one
Oh,
dude
yeah,
who
yeah.
hosted it, who was the old wrestling guy, played Mario, Captain Lou Albino or whatever he was called or something. Like that. But yeah, he was a wrestler and he played Mario on that show, the live action part, and he kind of hosts the cartoon and stuff like that.
Nice. The other one with the anime was the introduction of Saved by the Bell. They introduced, it was like this special, it was like Friday night or something, and they introduced Saved by the Bell. It was the origin of how the show got its name. I remember he showed up at the end and like Mr. Bell, this is like this total other nerd tangent, but I remember he showed up at the end of the show and Mr. Belty was right there and he's like, Mr. Morris, you're late for class. And then the bell went off and he goes, Saved by the Bell. And then it ended. That's where it got its name. But it had the cartoon with the guy with the Nintendo Power gun.
That was their punchline, was Saved by the Bell.
Saved by the Bell. Yeah. And that's how the whole show started. Pretty bad. But they had the whole block. It was like the way they sold the new Saturday morning block.
Gotcha.
So can you
Awesome.
guys tell me what this Nerdbuzz scored guide is that here?
Yeah.
'Cause I'm reading it here and I'm thinking that Saved by the Bell kind of needs a number 3.
And number 3, a turdish.
Turdish.
I think that's a tough call.
Okay.
Boy, I have a very love-hate relationship with Saved by the Bell.
Yeah.
I never could watch very much of it.
Well,
Couldn't get into
I'm
it.
the oldest of, and then I have a younger brother and sister. My sister was way into it.
Yeah.
And we'd come home and we'd each get our like our show we could watch.
Okay.
And you had to pick the show accordingly so that they weren't at the same times, right? Because we only had
Right,
one
right,
TV,
right.
so you
Otherwise
have to
it'd be
figure
a
them
fist
out.
fight.
And it was worth it to try to pick shows that the others didn't hate, so you would all kind of sit around and entertain each other at the same time. And Saved by the Bell was one of them. That's also why I've seen a bunch of episodes of Power Rangers. Because that's too. Anybody else that was my age wasn't watching that, but anybody else that was my age that had younger siblings would get stuck watching that stuff.
I was the
too.
youngest in my house, so I kind of would go home after like football practice or something like that. I wasn't very good in sports, but I still played them.
That's why it's called practice.
Don't know why I was there as another get ran over, but I remember watching the first few episodes of Power Rangers and being like, I could get into this. Pink Ranger's kind of cute.
I totally thought.
And then later on it was like, just can't hang with it. Like it's just a little too.
I've
too silly for me.
I've told Jeremiah.
Yeah.
My Power Rangers thing is that I always thought it was Canadian. Because we're so close to Canada, right?
Canada, they're just
like
they
you
got
just
giant robots.
Well, I not so much for that, but because it was so cheesy and campy.
Right.
And like on Saturday you would watch American cartoons. On Sunday you would watch Canadian cartoons because we're so close to Canada. We get Channel 12, which has all their stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so I'd always assumed my brother and my sister were watching the Canadian channel for like the first several months that I had watched Power Rangers. Okay. And then I was like, oh, this is totally part of this like afternoon block of weird robot Japanese, like all meshed together weirdness going on. Because there's like VR troopers started coming in and like a Beetleborg show. Like there were all these that were very similar.
I never watched those,
Yeah, they were all into that stuff. But
Yeah.
Power Rangers was the only one I watched any of, and it wasn't a lot.
So the reason I watched Saved by the Bell was because Wacky Races was on right before or after it.
Oh wait! That was was that one of those?
That was the Hanna-Barbera.
Yeah, that was the one that was kind of like Cannonball Run, wasn't it?
Yeah, but it was all animated with. I mean, they had Speed Racer, of course, in there too, but which is odd. But all the Hanna-Barbera.
That was the Power Rangers influence in there. Yeah,
right. Yeah, some of those are pretty good actually. I remember watching some of those, and then I'd go do something else.
Snively Whiplash and Muttley and
Yeah.
So should we jump to the this or that question about that?
Oh, sure, why not?
Transition?
Yeah.
That's one that we added recently.
Segway.
Yeah, Hanna-Barbera or Looney Tunes.
Oh,
Those are the same kind of era there.
right. They are.
If anybody knows my handle, they know which way I'm going this one.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I enjoyed mostly Looney Tunes. I gained a great deal of more appreciation for Hanna-Barbera after Space Ghost Coast to Coast kind of came around.
Yeah,
and I was like, I need to look into this stuff a little more. But the Hanna-Barbera stuff was always kind of like blocked when I was a kid, like on Sundays. And I was forced to go to Sunday school on Sundays. So it's like Sheena would come on, and then it was like, you got to get to class, get to Sunday school. We're going right now, going to church. And so I was like, but Sheena's on. I want to watch Sheena. Girl in the Jungle.
Yeah.
Why do I got to go hang out with, Jesus? I don't want to hang out with Jesus. I want to watch Girl in the Jungle.
Jesus hang out with me and we'll watch Sheena?
Exactly. It'd be much better, but no. So anyway, I got drug off to school. So it's like the Hanna-Barbera stuff was always on in the mornings. Like they would have like the weird, all those weird shows like Space Ghost and
I love Space Ghost.
There was the what was the one that had they had like dinosaurs and some other different things like that, and they had like these what the hell are they called?
Like the Johnny Quest?
Yeah, the Johnny Quest kind of stuff. I mean, those are all like 60s cartoons, but they were just kept recycling them for years and years and years and years. I loved all those, but I never got to watch them very much because I had to go to church every Sunday, so I never got to watch. So it's like, it's like your parents would like fight you to get you out of bed in the morning to get you to go to school Monday through Friday, and then on Sunday morning you'd wake up at like 4 a.m. and you'd be like, "What's on TV? Let's like get up on Saturday morning." Saturday mornings and Sunday mornings, get up as early as possible so you can watch as many cartoons before you got drugged out of the house to go do something else. Yeah, so that was me. But Looney Tunes was always on TV after I got home from school, so I always watched Looney Tunes.
Tom and Jerry.
Yeah. Tom and Jerry was always on. So, I always loved all that stuff.
Foghorn Leghorn.
Yeah.
yeah.
And then now it's like,
Well, I say, boy.
Yeah, now it's like they're a little too racist, I guess. Would be the fair thing to say.
Abrasive, I guess.
Yeah, which is weird. I mean, it's unfortunate, but it's like they're still like you can find them on like YouTube and stuff like that. I was watching some of them, and it's like people had complaints about this. It's like I guess it's racist.
People are
it
way
is.
too sensitive.
Yeah, I mean people are, but I guess we don't need to have cartoons being replayed on TV of people in blackface, which is rude and insensitive and not cool. But at the time that was over my head.
Yeah,
exactly.
I didn't even think about that kind of thing either at the time. That wasn't what I was.
I grew up.
I was associating with.
Yeah, I grew up in a middle class white neighborhood. So there wasn't really much to worry about. It wasn't in our periphery that we were.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but I mean,
something offensive was happening. We didn't know.
But you're talking about the blackface thing. That's something that's still relevant in current Japanese animation.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like okay, so nobody's gonna go complaining about that and saying that's racist.
Well, some people do. They recolored like Dragon Ball Z. They went by.
Yeah,
they
Mr.
just-
Popo was freaking blue, and
the Kai series or whatever. He's blue. Yeah, I noticed that too. It's like, but he's supposed to be black.
Which never even occurred to me until like I watched like part of like Dragon Ball Z abridged, and I was like, oh.
I need to check that out. I've had a few people tell me I need to check the
You
abridged
really
out.
should. It's funny. It is really funny.
Huh. Yeah, I never thought of that either when I was watching my first run throughs. I did kind of associate it with the the classic blackface Looney Tune character guy, but I didn't think about that as I was watching it at all.
Yeah.
Nice,
Try
I like
some
it. Help yourself.
plum.
Yeah, you should, man. Help
Is it
yourself.
okay? Is it okay for me to just grab and go?
Go,
the
man.
rules are out the window.
Okay.
So you make your own.
These are
rules.
all here to be drunk.
Yeah.
All right.
They don't have to be, but they're all here to be. We'll get
right.
drunk one way or the other.
Yeah.
I'll make an effort.
Buzzed. We get heavily buzzed.
Buzzed.
We'd like to encourage people to be responsible drinkers.
Fair enough.
Yes.
Fair enough.
We're gonna hang out, so it's fine.
We will, as they say, put a bubble in it.
Yeah. So, Jeremiah's turn. Fire away, man.
My turn. Okay.
Keep the ball rolling.
Oh, well, it came right up to it. No,
Oh, you're gonna go with the superhero, huh?
I was, but I'm...
How do you like to absorb? It's probably a good one, I think. Think so? Because we already talked about it a little bit on the last episode.
Yeah, I
Maybe
know.
to get that ball rolling again? All right, if you don't, I'm gonna. Ask something.
Okay. Fine. How do you prefer your superheroes? I already know the answer to this because you've answered it already, but...
Kind of on the other show. How do you prefer to absorb your superhero?
So what medium
it's-
do you like to receive them in?
It's actually, I'm actually very open to receiving them however I can get them. It's so rare that I get to sit down and actually follow a series for any length of time because there's just not enough time in my day to sit down and plow through, books. I've got other things I got to do. If I want to go out and I could take my one day off and I could spend it all day trying to stay caught up on comics. And then I would have nothing else to do. I love comic books, but I like to read like one before I eat dinner or something like that. And so I read, maybe 5 or 6 comic books a week, unless there's something I'm really stoked about, then I want to read it immediately. So I kind of squeeze them in here and there. But if I can watch a movie, I'll watch a movie. If it's about a character I've never seen before, absolutely. If it introduces me to a character I've never heard of before, that is so awesome.
Yeah.
Which is what is done for me mostly.
Oh yeah, I think it's great.
I have been by far more gone down the nerd spiral
Oh yeah, totally.
from animated or live action. And with just we're watching the Defenders right now.
I had no
And-
spoilers, please. I haven't watched it yet.
So we're watching the Defenders right now, and I gotta say, I really think when it's done as well as they've done, Marvel has done their TV series part of it, and even the cinematic. But I really like the TV series.
It's interesting because both of those, the cinematic, the TV show on like basic cable and on Netflix, they're all supposed to be in the same universe. Mm-hmm. They're all part of the cinematic universe, but they're all very, very careful not to mention each other.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is it makes sense for production reasons. It's like, well, you don't know, we can't throw this character in our show and then have him pop up in yours, and it creates those weird continuity issues. And that's funny because that kind of stuff happens in comics all the time.
Yeah, but they do it.
You know.
Now, see, DC has taken that route, and they just throw the Flash in there and have him change the timeline. So
Well, that actually happened in the comic though, so why
know.
not?
Yeah.
I know, but I'm just saying it works because that's what they just did.
Well, and DC
So that's
is
why they did all
notorious
those
for that.
crisis. That's why they did all those crisis events, was because they're like, look, we made a muddle of this. And to one extent, on one hand, you can understand. Let's do a big event to tie all of our stuff together and make sure that it's all in one continuity. That makes perfect sense. But on the other hand, it's like, how do you, if you have an author who wants to tell a story that's not in continuity, but they can use that character to make a very poignant message, why not let them do it? Like Marvel for a little while would run out of continuity stories. They had their Marvel Knights line, which was an out of continuity storyline that didn't tie into the normal universe, and they would kill characters off. They're one of the most beautiful books I ever read, and it's still literally brought tears to my eyes. Was written by Michael J. Straczynski, who did Babylon 5 and whatnot, and it was called Silver Surfer Requiem. And in by the end of the book, the character has discovered he's dying. He's dying of some sort of degenerative something. And so he basically goes on a tour of the Marvel Universe to talk to the people who made the most impact on his life, and then return to his homeland to, settle his affairs and then pass from the world. And it's just a tear-jerking book. It's like 5 issues long, and it just drags the emotion out of you in a way that most things don't. But you can't really do that with Superman or the Flash or something like that. A character who is their flagship character, who they have to keep going with to sell their memorabilia constantly.
Yeah.
But in some venues you can do that if you allow your creators to have that liberty.
Even like those are my favorite comics for sure. And the ones that are limited to I'd say maybe 12 issues.
Yeah.
They get a 1-year run where you get an issue every month. It's by these two artists. It's like they're passionately making this for a year. Mm-hmm. It's really obvious in the comic book that there's all this passion behind it, but then it just ends. And it's maybe has the characters and those basic rules of Marvel or DC universe apply, and they might meet people throughout there. But that's not going to transition into their regular monthly comics, right? You get the world, but
you're looking at the minutia that makes those characters that character. You're really delving into what helps shape those identities. And I think those are beautiful books. Like Hulk right now, it's one of my favorite books coming out from Marvel. It's about She-Hulk. It's not about Bruce Banner. It's about Jennifer Walters, and it takes place after Secret Wars 2. Where she has been brought to near death by Thanos.
Oh, wow, okay.
So she's almost been killed. She's on her deathbed, but she recovers and she comes back from it, but she's got post-traumatic stress syndrome from it. So now you have a superhero who's scared to transform her into their superhero persona. Yeah. But she's still trying to exist in the world. So you have your first story arc is about that. How does she get to a place where she can deal with just living a normal life, let alone being a superhero?
Yeah.
That's the kind of comic book I really like to read. And I really do appreciate funny. I really do appreciate anything that a person can bring to a comic book that's very entertaining and whatnot. But, some of it becomes very, boring. You read a comic book and the first reaction that the superhero has is to punch it to see if it can fix the problem. When the characters have got some... not every character needs to be brooding and dark and so on and so forth, but they can still have real world problems just like everybody else. And it makes them relatable. It's like how do you make a character entertaining to read? Well, you put a piece of yourself into that character, and you can kind of understand.
And it's so different when the character is built around is a relevant character that we can relate to that's built around these problems, as opposed to a character that's had those problems shoved on them to make them more relevant. Because I'm not a fan of those comics as much.
Yeah, but that's kind of what they did with the She-Hulk character in a I mean, because anybody can have a trauma visited upon them.
Yeah.
Taking a character and completely changing their gender identity or changing, their sexuality or something like that. That's something that I think a lot of people have looked at and they've been kind of shied away from. They're like, well, don't change Thor. Thor is Thor. Why are you changing Thor? It's like, well, let's see how we can solve that in the story and make Thor, maybe Thor's a mantle instead of just a name,
It wasn't Thor and it wasn't a persona that could be picked up by who can pick up the hammer.
Exactly. It's whoever, if you can wield the hammer, you can be
Thor. He's a
Thor.
horse guy for a while. Come on. Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Totally.
But and then the She-Hulk, correct me if I'm wrong, was a blood transfusion from near death from Bruce Banner, which created her.
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was something like that. But the character of She-Hulk was kind of interesting in that she just embraced it. You know, she was a character who she hulked out because she was confident. You know, Bruce Banner would hulk out because he was angry or scared or something like that, and there's all these different personas in him, and that's of course what's appearing now in the Hulk comic is that we realize that Jennifer Walters is the same. It's like she doesn't turn giant green and beautiful, she turns big and gray and hulking.
Yeah.
And it's because she's got this trauma in her that she's dealing with, and she's still trying to cope and be a superhero. And that's really awesome that we have this character who's so damaged, but still has the desire to go out and try to better the world around them and save people around them. And that's pretty fascinating.
That is really cool.
I think it's super cool. Yeah, it's a great book.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
and even the previous series before that, like that was written and drawn by I'm going to butcher his name, but his name's Alred. Yeah, Alred. You know, it was this really kind of weird, like throwback sort of art style, kind of 70s sort of art style, but it was just a fun book of this superhero who was also a lawyer, and most of the book was them trying to do lawyer stuff. It's just
nice.
like it was just an interesting character. I love reading that character.
If I had one comic to like recommend for people to try that does a lot of these things you're talking about really well, it's an Image comic again. Right?
Okay.
But I would say The Old Guard is done so well. It was a comic that I read the first issue, and I wasn't quite sold on it. And then so I was like, but, you know, I kind of like it. I'll get the second one. Again, it has the female lead, which I'm not necessarily jumping on that bandwagon. Like the instant that I see what that is, like,
You're doing better.
We'll see how they do it, right? Yeah. I used to be not into the female lead. It just wasn't what I wanted to read about, but they've really gotten a lot better with it
Or
now.
play.
They're not so girly and whatever, right? They're just,
Well, a lot of the creative teams are women. I mean, there's so many female creators working in the comic industry now, and that's fantastic. We need more of that. We need more people to tell stories that they want to change the perceptions of gender equality and sexuality and stuff like that. You have to have people who are working in that industry who are from that demographic as well, in order to tell that story. You know, one of the big things that's been discussed at a lot of conventions I've seen is there's been a lot of LGBT representation. You go down to Emerald City Comic Con, you know, you'd think that normally it would be a dudes fest. You see families and you see boys and girls in equal number down there. That is so awesome. That is so cool to be able to go down there and see that everybody's welcome and that everybody's having a good time, and that there's not a lot of uncomfortable bros who are just like, I don't want my superheroes to be girls. Who gives a crap? If you like superheroes, you know. But what's also really cool is the sexualization is being toned down. You know, you can have a strong female lead, like for example, I'm going to lose it now, but there's another Image comic. It's kind of a Western, but it's set in space.
is it Extremity?
Extremity.
No, it's not
No,
actually. That's one of many. But there's
That is a
there's
female
another
lead
one.
in it. It was actually
Exactly.
That
There's
one's
a couple
pretty cool
of them
too.
out there that are that way. But it's there's a few out there. You know, Boom Studios actually. If you ever want to look at, they have a really really great kind of cast of creators that work in that studio right now, and they're putting out a lot of all age friendly stuff like Lumberjanes and stuff like that have got characters who are from the get go, you know, gay or transgender.
Yeah.
And it's like these are aimed at teenagers. You know, they're not looking for converts. They're looking to entertain people and show that, you know, people exist in their community who are like this.
Well, and
That's really cool.
I think there's such a. I guess that's what I meant by earlier by like having the superhero live the persona as opposed to like forcing that on the superhero, right? Like, when it comes across organically, it's awesome, and it seems so much more relevant instead of this forced thing. And the Old Guard, it does that so well. It's about these group of people that have lived forever, and they will die at some point, but they don't know what that day will be, and so eventually someday they just die, right?
Yeah, Glenn was talking about that.
And it's actually done really, really well. The art styles, I mean, it's not the best looking comic I've seen, but I like its kind of rough feel it's got. But the writing in it totally has the female lead. It totally has gay characters in it that have loved each other for thousands of years and like have lived this super long time. But none of it feels forced. Like it all feels so organically just part of the comic.
Yeah.
And I think if you're interested in any part of that without it without it feeling forced or done abrasively in any sort of way. Really tastefully done.
Yeah.
I totally recommend it to you. It's worth checking out, and I'm a little bit sad because I think it stopped at 6 issues, which I'm such a fan of, and I really want more, which is such a great thing to say about a comic when it ends. You're still hungry.
Yeah.
But I really want like 1 or 2 more issues.
It's kind of interesting through Image Comics because everything has been, for the most part, has been like, this is our first story arc. And a lot of those books, they take off. They're really popular from the get-go, and so then the artists will get snapped up by like Marvel or DC, and they'll go work on a story arc for them, and then they'll eventually come back and finish their book. And so sometimes you get these really long gaps in between things. But the nice thing about them being chaptered up like that is that it's chaptered. So it's like you have a beginning of a story arc, you have the end of a story arc. And if you get to the end of the book and you're wanting more, that means that they left on a high note.
Oh, for sure.
Which is really good. Because when you get to the book, you're like, well, I'm glad that's over.
Yeah.
kind
Another
of
one.
drag.
This is going to be another issue.
Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of mainstream comics like Marvel and DC and whatnot, some of those really long-running books, people are hanging into them because out of loyalty. A lot more than they're hanging in on them out of, it being really a good book. And they chapter out just like that as well. So anybody who's watching this, I encourage you, when you do go into the comic book store and you look on the shelf and you're like, where do I start? Because it's intimidating. You walk through the Marvel or DC section and you're like, where in the hell do I start on Avengers? Yeah. Where in the world do I start on X-Men? What world do I do with Batman? How in the world do I get on Teen Titans? Find a cover that looks good. Start there.
Unless it's a variant. You can be fooled by variants.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If the cover looks good, pick it up and flip through the book. If you think...
That's something I should ask you. As a comic book owner, are you opposed to people opening the plastic and actually opening and looking through it a little bit?
We put them all in the plastic. We do that on our own. No comic comes... except for there are rare exceptions. Some comics come polybagged, what they call them. And they'll have a sealed plastic around them that can't be opened without damaging the package. If it's on a bag and board and it's taped, somebody physically put it in there.
And most it's shops, okay to peruse it.
A lot of shops
don't read your monthly subscription in the store. But...
Right. Yeah, I mean that's just kind of common sense, politeness. But I encourage people to look through them. See if it's something that appeals to you. Don't waste $4 on a comic book that you're not going to like. Flip through it. If the artwork looks good, give it a try. And if you like that issue and you're like, well, I don't know what happened before this. Well, have us track down the issues previous.
Yeah.
Or, ask us, if we can order them for you. Or see if they're on the shelf, just look. And, dig through the back issue bins. That's part of the fun, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
is
the search, right?
So a quick question on that, too. So back issues.
Yes.
What is the pricing and how does that work on back issues? Because that's something that intimidates the heck out of me.
That's a good question. That's a very good question. Back issue pricing, you're going to find that run a real gamut. It depends on where you go. Every shop is going to have back issue pricing is going to be different. I would recommend that you always be prepared to pay at least cover price.
Okay.
However, most shops have deals on their back issue bins because once it's left the shelf and they have a stack, on their front facing shelf, that's probably a few issues deep. A lot of stores order much heavier than I do. My kind of rule of thumb has been order enough for my hold box customers, and whatever goes on the shelf, I want it gone in 2 weeks. Hopefully in 2 or 3 weeks, it's not there anymore.
Yeah.
That's my goal.
That's the longest I ever go without going and picking up one.
Right,
that's
exactly.
not in my box. I know it'll be gone if I don't.
Right.
Do that.
Hopefully it'll be gone within 2 or 3 weeks, and I won't have anything left there. So everything that's still sitting there that you see front facing on my shelf, I failed.
Yeah.
I got my numbers wrong. So once the shelf has gotten so full that I can't physically get anything more on it, we take the oldest books out, we put them in the back issue bins. Now, for most shops, they're going to have some sort of a sale. They're going to try to get rid of those unless there's something that jumps up in price because it has a first appearance or suddenly becomes relevant. Most of the shops will first try to bundle them, like we try to bundle them. We try to bundle them in a full story arc. If we can make a full story arc of 5 or 6 books or 4 books or whatever it is, then we'll put it in our bin for half off. Buy a full story arc, half off. That's better than any trade paperback. That's
I like that.
Yeah.
So, you figure...
And I would think if they're coming off the main shelf, these are first prints.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're not even like reprintings. Like you're getting what you would have gotten that day when it came out.
Yeah, most of the time. Sometimes we got some reorders on the shelf, but most of the time they're going to be first printings.
Yeah.
But most shops will do like $1 back issues, or they'll do $2 back issues, or something like that. They'll have a little bit of a discount because they want them out of their shop. Most shops don't bag and board their comics. We do it because we order light enough that
not
it's
savages.
feasible. Not to say anything disparaging about anybody.
That's also ball rats, right? Yes, savage.
Yes,
But
I got that.
we bag and board
That was from
everything
the Dirt
as a
Mall, by the
customer.
way.
Yeah.
We think it's just a courtesy to our customer. That and it's just
It is. It's so, your customers appreciate it.
We're selling collectibles. That's my point of view.
Yes.
We're selling collectibles. We want your collectibles to be nice, so we put them in a bag and board. Everything goes in the back issue bins. We do if you buy at least 10 from the back issue bins, you get them 50 cents each,
Wow,
which is a killer deal.
that's a super killer deal.
But that being said, our back issue bins are pretty well picked over because of that. So
Yeah.
it's like you're not going to find any Amazing Spider-Man, Deadpool, or Batman. You're probably not going to find any of those 3 books in my back issue bins. But, some of the bundles you might find some pretty good deals in there.
I'm gonna go peruse the back issue bins.
Yeah,
You
definitely.
really
Totally
should.
sold me on it.
I think that's actually one of the best things somebody can do is to get into comic books if they're not sure. Walk over to the collected issue bins and just grab a bundle. It's a full story arc. You got the whole thing right there.
Nice.
It might start on number 6, and it might end on number 10, but it's a full story arc.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
super cool. Which is probably if you picked up one and got into it, those are the ones you'd collect anyway.
Most likely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Most
There was one that you had put in my box where Batman asks Catwoman to marry him.
Oh yeah,
That
yeah,
issue.
yeah. That was really
I think
cool.
I can't remember what issue it was. I want to say like 25 or 6. But
Something like that.
my favorite part about that issue, because I wasn't sure about it, and then you were like,
the really
I
sour
thought you
one.
might like it, and so I thought, okay, I'll just take it home
That's
and
the
read
really
it.
sour
Right?
one.
I ain't scared.
I'm just
Don't be intimidated.
Yeah.
But the coolest thing about it, I thought, was that it had 2 different artists. So page 1, 2, and 3 were by one artist, and then when you went into the next pages 4, 5, and 6 were this other artist, and it was like the flashback memory versus the current time.
I've seen them do that really, really successfully in a few different comic books at different times.
That was the most appealing part for me. Like, I mean,
Right.
story and everything, it was fine. I mean,
There was-
it's a fine comic, but that part was so cool.
There was a beautiful book done by J.H. Williams III and several other. I think it was Amy Reeder did it with him. I think I could be wrong about that, but it was Batwoman, and I believe it was previous to the New 52 story arc. And the way they did that one was gorgeous because J.H. Williams, first of all, told DC, "You'll work on my schedule, not on yours." And so they solicited a whole bunch of books that he hadn't even come close to finishing because his work is so elaborate and so beautiful. It's all painted and just beautiful. And Amy Reeder is maybe... I'm not sure if she has a colorist or who works with her, but if whoever worked on her coloring on that book, and her pencils are phenomenal. Her inking is phenomenal. But whoever colored that book it just astounds me. I think she's the one who did Madame Xanadu for a couple of issues as well, and just absolutely beautiful book. Well, they did this really cool split art thing throughout the entire book, where instead of it being like you do one half of the book, I do the other, one did the top half and the other one did the bottom half.
Oh, that's cool.
And that was just absolutely gorgeous. That was such a beautiful book. And it was hard to keep up with because people were buying it for the art. I mean, it was so absolutely fantastic. And that was a character who, going back to what we were talking about earlier about characters who were of the LGBT community, that was the Batwoman who was gay in that book. And that one was quite fascinating because that character wasn't something that they like imposed on the character she was at from the start. And
Yeah,
had a wonderful relationship with the Question and stuff like that. It was really cool.
No, we're definitely going to have a little sit down after we're done with all these episodes because
Oh, yeah.
you've mentioned like 3 or 4 comics now
Yeah.
that I want to write down that are going
yeah.
to go in my. I'm going to order these.
Absolutely,
Like,
yeah. Take
I
some
love
notes,
hearing.
take some notes. Yeah.
We seem to have a similar passion.
So-
It's not. It's art, right? And I love
it's beautiful art
I
and beautiful
love
writing,
the
yeah.
art quality of it. So
Yeah.
I'm totally into all those.
And you told me that he didn't stay up on it. He wasn't current.
I know. Well, when we first talked about this, you're like,
I'm
"Don't ask
so-
me questions about what's coming out next week and what's going on with story arcs." and,
I
like,
wouldn't even be
But,
able to
okay.
tell you.
I don't care about that.
So
to
you're
be
talking about
honest
the
with you.
painting and the art and the
Yeah.
time taken. Are you familiar with the Van Gogh movie?
No, I've never heard of that.
It
Neither are
is-
we because we can't find it.
I just looked it up just now. It is hitting the tour, the festival circuit right now.
Okay.
It is an animated feature of the life of Van Gogh done through Van Gogh's style of painting,
Oh, interesting. So
and
animated.
every frame is a full painting. It's not celled. It's not. It's a full painting.
It's pretty cool.
crazy.
We watched this like behind
There's
the scenes on making it, and they had all the artists lined up doing the next frame paint, like doing a full on painting of it. It was
You guys should take a look at. There's one playing up, I think, at Bellingham right now or it's going to be playing either at the Pickford or the Limelight. I'm not sure which. I think it's called No Hands, and it's an animated feature that looks very, very, very artsy fartsy. I'm not sure how to even qualify it, but it looks interesting.
Yeah, I like Humboldt art.
Yeah,
like I'm not a fan of hoity-toity art stuff, but like if the artist that put it out, you can tell that it like humbled him, and he's not just out there, marking it up $1 million because his name's on it, but he's also a fan of his own work. To me, that's huge. Like,
you guys ever watch that Adam Ruins Everything?
Yeah,
he did one about art. Not art studios, but galleries and whatnot marking up.
I'm sorry.
It's a lot.
If I can walk in and recreate it on the spot, that's not art.
Well,
that does not deserve thousands upon thousands of dollars.
Well, let's go back to remember in the previous
you two
episode,
are artists.
I talked about
I'm a hack.
Art should be able to convey the idea as simply and quickly as possible, and clearly as possible. It's like a circle on a white background is kind of like meh. You got to figure out, sit there and think about what it means.
Yeah.
It's like, well, it's a nice conversation piece, but
and again, there's
art,
that like fine line. Because for me, there's such a fine line between drawing something that tells too much of a story versus something that leaves a little bit for me to fill in with my imagination.
I got you.
Right? Like
you
need that. You still need that zone in there.
But if you can create that in there, therein lies the art.
Yes, that is totally.
But if you've got 4 boxes drawn there,
like
and one's done in pen, one's done with a paintbrush, another one's done with a roller. It's
is there a segregation in art between giving a message versus being just decorative?
Yes, I think for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now you go.
Well, I think that's based on the consumer. Maybe not even so much unless it's a mass-produced thing. If it's a one of a kind.
Because I've seen some beautiful paintings that I have no clue what they would mean or convey, but I didn't think that they were anything else but beautiful too.
It just speaks to you.
That I think fully gives the art credit to it. You know what I'm saying? It speaks to you. It gives you something to do it. But harkening back to an interview done with Stephen King where he's talking about he's reached a status to the point where he can just take his fist and pound it on a keyboard for 200 pages. And there's no publisher that will ever question him. They will publish it, and it will be a New York Times bestseller.
I have a friend who has some interesting commentary about that I will have to share with you guys later if I can find it. But
okay,
yeah. Well, and even
but I'm just saying. I mean, that's what I'm thinking. You see the back to the Daredevil series, the white painting on the wall. Mm-hmm. It's nothing but a canvas that's been covered in white.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that is not art. Anybody can do.
But Kingpin, it
totally is.
I don't know. It's interesting though, because if you go up to like a gallery like a Dakota Arts up in Bellingham or something like that, and you walk into their gallery and you'll see stuff that's kind of similar to that.
Somebody took their glasses off, set it on the ground, and all of a sudden that became the center art piece.
Well, no. That's not what I mean. That's not what I mean. What I mean is like, it looks very, very simplistic. Like you step back from it and you look and you can't see the minutia of what actually went into making it. But it's like if you talk to some of the people who work in there. And you'd be like, how did they get that particular effect? It doesn't look like necessarily anything. It's just a gradient of some kind. It's like, but how did they get that effect? How did they get that? How did they get it? How did they get the paint to do that on the canvas? How did they get that opacity? How did they get?
Yeah.
What did they do to present that image? And you start realizing that there was a real process behind it.
All right.
While I don't.
And therein lies what I was saying before.
Yeah.
Could I recreate that on the spot? No.
Yeah.
Well, and I think a lot of art. My day job is making art. I'm a glassblower. So me and my dad, that's what we do.
I actually had no idea.
Right? And there's such a fine line between creating something that I'm passionate about and that I've created a relationship with but will also convey that to the people that are going to buy it. So you have your mass-produced stuff that's not
Yeah.
really mass-produced, but I mean, we make more of it than anything else, right?
So bongs.
Yeah, right. And we're not doing that. We don't want to be those. We want to be artists.
I thought you guys wanted to make money.
Yeah. But then you'll have people that will come in and they'll see a piece, and some people will question the price or whatever. But you have other people that will come in, and right away they've already established a relationship with something we've made.
Right.
And I think it could cost 10 times as much as we charged, and they wouldn't care. They just want that piece because for them, it says something, and they're listening to what it says, right?
Oh, I dig it.
And I think there's such a weird fine line in art that all revolves around that. And anything that you ever see in a gallery, the actual artist is only getting, I think, conservatively half the money for that piece. The gallery is actually getting all the other half of it, right? If you go into a gallery and see something for $5,000, the artist is probably only getting maybe $2,000 of that, something like that.
In your case, it's hourly wages.
Yeah, well, for me it is. Yeah, well, my favorite pieces are always the people ask me that all the time. What's your favorite thing to make? What's your favorite thing to make? And I always tell them, it's the things that I've made that are like the first 5 of a run, right? Because those have so much influence of the medium I'm working with that I'm also growing to understand how to work with, that it's influenced in there, right? Like after that, they become production pieces. And I'm just forcing the product to now have the end result I want. Before that, it has this influence. Yeah. And so there's this raw, organic quality to it that I really appreciate. And even with comic books, like sometimes those short runs, it's like, you can see that that's going on. Like they've established this relationship with the story
really
they're doing.
That emotional context.
Yeah.
Is that your prototype octopus? Hands down your best one yet still.
You think so?
I love that one, man.
And that just happened. I couldn't duplicate it.
I would have paid full price for it, but you guys sold it to me at family price. Thank you.
That's I appreciate it. Yeah, we gave you the gallery. What we would have gotten out of a gallery.
Yeah.
Right on.
Art is so subjective.
It can be. It's infuriating, infuriatingly so at times.
Yeah. Even like with my doodles, whenever somebody sees something that I've done like that, and I can see this little light in their eyes when they see it, and they've already created the backstory and the pre-story, and it's like, dude, take it. Please take it. You're the person this should go to. Yeah. Right? I'm just going to make more, and I'll progress, but please take this moment I've created and embrace it like you've just done for me. Yeah, I love it when somebody does that. It's so cool. Yeah. So it's so subjective. I encourage anybody to go out and find a way to translate a piece of them into any sort of art that you can. Whether it's making beer, make some beer, or it could be drawing or blowing glass.
I think
it could be
mine's
anything.
Just one-off things.
I got so much of a appreciation for people who work with wood.
Yeah.
Stuff that's actually, like somebody who carves a banister for a stairway, or builds a house or something like that. It's like that's not just beautiful but practical. Some of those guys who can make real beautiful furniture and stuff like that. Yeah. That's really something.
Yeah, and there's a piece of those people in that furniture, which is really cool. Yeah. Totally is.
Great. Yep.
Well, I'll say my big thing though is I like doing the one-offs.
Yeah.
I like to just, hey, that looks cool. I think I can do it. And then just for me, when I make up something, it's the journey of learning how it's done.
Yeah.
And there's not always, sometimes there's a drive to repeat it and make some more of it. And usually it's like, hey, I know how to do that now. I want to find something new to try.
Yeah.
So.
Indeed.
Well, and I think one of the best things you can do to encourage that type of thing is, like you're saying, to purchase those other, like if you liked Wonder Woman, like we were saying earlier, buy those Wonder Woman things. Encourage that product to come out again. Buy that person's art, or hunt them, pursue them.
People have to
hit like and subscribe, right? Like all these things. Like it all totally works the same way, man. It really does.
Something subliminal there.
Yeah. Yes. Well, there's no real. I mean, no,
totally
not that
do.
I consider
Please
what
do.
we're doing to be really art, but I mean, it's like those little subtle pats on the back that really make you feel like the work was worth it. They really do mean something.
Totally. Yeah.
And it's really nice to hear.
You have to vote with your dollar.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Or your click.
Yeah, right. There you go.
Well, it's been a complete honor to have you with us and hang out
it's
even
been
longer.
a real pleasure. This has been a lot of fun.
I'm super glad. I always get nervous when we have a new guest, and especially
you
somebody I
don't
want
know.
to
I might just
represent.
come in here and be completely berserk.
That'll be
trash the place.
after party.
Yeah, really. Yeah. What did Dan do? Well, he vomited on the lawn.
What didn't Dan do?
Exactly.
So,
It was gross.
We still love
Stay
it.
tuned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nerd friends for life. So let's do one last time. To all the nerds,
Through all the fuzz.
bottoms up. Let's get nerd buzzed. Thank you, Dan.
Talking
Thank you.
about
Appreciate it.
beer.
Go to Docking Bay 93.
Talking about
Check out Acer
nerd
Meadery.
culture.
Do it all, please, nerds. We love you. And click like and subscribe.
Please do.
Marcus and Jeremiah, you're on Nerdbuzzed. Let's get Nerdbuzzed.